So, good morning, everyone. My 6th year here on stage at More IP, and as always, I'll be taking you through some of the ins and outs on what the technical department has been up to behind the screens. Let's see, which one is it? This one, I think. Yeah, that one. A quick agenda, so you know what to expect. We'll start with some updates on the different exchanges we are operating around the world, after which we will go on with some information about the IX as a Service product. Then we will dive into some of the projects we have running or will be running in the near future. And I'll end my show presentation with a bonus subject on our homegrown photonics. So yeah, let's get started. Last year I presented you with some slides with the different statistics on all the exchanges we have been operating around the world. And since it was the first time I did that, I requested some feedback. And it was mostly positive, but some also mentioned that it was maybe a bit too long or a bit too detailed. So I decided to check back my own presentation, and I have to agree. All those repeating slides, they became kind of boring, for the lack of better words. So this year I decided to do it a little bit different. Looking at the numbers, I can basically sum it up in a single graph. We grew. Shorter than this, I couldn't make it, right? Now, in all seriousness, so no matter which number you look at, it pretty much increased. But this is a bit too easy, so let me add some details to these slides. I combined the remote exchanges, so we don't get those repeating slides like we did last year, and to make things a bit quicker, since we're on a time schedule. And if we look at the total connected capacity of all of them combined, we see an increase of 8.3%. We see an identical increase on the total amount of ports connected to these exchanges. And not on the slides are things like the peak traffic, which for all of them increased as well, and the total amount of traffic running over the exchanges. And they increased with 7% from the top of my head. Now, if we then go further with the Amsterdam exchange, the Netherlands-based exchange, we see an increase for the total connected capacity of 14.1%. But at the same time, we also see a lot lower increase for the total connected ports of 2.5%. This is not something to worry about, because for the 8 years that I've been with AMS6 now, the numbers of the ports are always around this 1,250. It's a bit up or down, a couple dozen, but it's always swinging around it. Some years we see decreases, some years increases. And the reason for this is that a big decrease is caused by members actually upgrading their ports from 5 times 10 gig or 6 times 10 gig to a single 100 gig. So the amount of ports go down. Now, on top of that, we also have some decreases, of course, because of customers disconnecting or downgrading. But if you put those together and then see that we're still increasing, that's because of all the upgrades and new port connections. Now, again, peak traffic, not on the slide, went up from just 10 terabits last year to just below 11 terabits this year. I really was hoping to reach the 11 terabits a little bit further sooner than another exchange in our country next door, but we missed it by a little. And the total traffic running over the exchange went up to 28 exabyte, or just below 28 exabyte, which is an increase of 13%. Then we grew even more in Amsterdam with the addition of 2 new POP locations, which are Greenhouse and SmartDC. Yeah, I did do it right. Greenhouse and SmartDC, the first 2 locations to be located further outside of the Amsterdam region than we had so far. These went live November last year. And with these, we now have 16 POP locations connected to the exchange. Now, then looking further on the worldwide map, we see the 7 exchanges we have been operating for a while already. And we can add 4 new exchanges that have been built or implemented in the last couple of months. These are Cairo, Hyderabad, Kolkata, and Singapore. Both Cairo and Singapore, they are a single location for the time being that are connected to the exchange. And Hyderabad and Kolkata already have multiple locations connected. There's a couple more going on. Yesterday you might have seen one already, Kuching. We're starting the implementation there. And there's some more in the pipeline, but we'll add more information on those once we get closer to the delivery date. Now, all of these are based on the IX as a Service product we launched a while back. And from the implementation side of things, we made some nice improvements. Like always with something new, it's a bit of a learning curve to do it right, or to do it right, to do it better, let's say it like that. Because of this, the first instance we built took us a couple of months to actually complete. Now, since then, we've been able to improve on a lot of things, like the internal communications. With the new product, getting everybody on the same page, talking the same language, it needs some attention. So we created some standards and templates, which helped to improve on those. The same counts for the information we need from the customer, things like IP addresses, ASN numbers, and you name it. We created a nice template which explains what we need, why we need it, and also when we need it. And that also helps to speed things along. To build one exchange or to build one IX as a service, we have a lot of dependencies on different knowledge levels, and that costs quite some waiting time between the handovers. And by sharing our knowledge, we were able to eliminate many of those dependencies, again, causing a better throughput time. And then, of course, something new is always manual tasks, and during the process or over the last couple of months, we automated many of those tasks, making the speed of execution, of course, also a lot better. And it also eliminated the chances of things going wrong during the manual tasks. So all in all, with all these improvements, and we have a lot more in stock for the next couple of months, but with all these improvements, we are now able to implement a full IX as a service in a matter of weeks. Next slide, next topic. This is a topic that I hope didn't go unnoticed because we really did our best to spam it to you everywhere we could. LinkedIn, Facebook, newsletters, everywhere we could. None of them were safe from our marketing department, and even our technical team did their part in spreading this word. But in the unlikely event you did miss out on this one, let me do a quick recap. As you know, all of our switches in the Amsterdam area, they connect to two core routers, basically the heart of our network. And about 3 years ago, I think, maybe 4, we decided it was time to move one of these routers to a new location, a new physical location. And as you can imagine, moving a node so deep in your network, it takes quite a lot of work. So the preparations for this project, we already noticed that it was a massive amount of work just during the preparation stage. We needed to move half of the dark fibers to a new location, making sure they were on diverse routes, not crossing with the existing location, or not crossing with the other core location. And on top of that, we needed to prepare a lot of configurations, DCI links, and you name it. And we already knew this project was going to be big. Right? And we knew it was going to take quite some time and a lot of people to handle. But actually, during the preparations, we noticed how big this project actually was going to be. And it was quickly after that moment that we realized that this was flagged as one of the biggest projects in the AMP6 history. And now I need to check my notes quickly, sorry for that. So during last year's MoreIP, I presented that we were in the final pre-flight checks for this project and that we would soon after start with the actual migrations. And on June 14th, Monday, June 14th, very early in the morning, we diverted the traffic from the first set of links that were to be migrated, and well, we started the works. During the night, we had engineers on site to move the links, and in the office to do the configuration changes, and during the day, the next day, we had another set of engineers again preparing for the next night to come, just to eliminate as much work as possible for the night shift. And during the Friday, the 5th night of this project, the Friday the 18th of June, we finalized the last couple of links and all the traffic was diverted to the new core. A whopping 19.8 terabit of traffic diverted in just 5 nights and without any impact on customer traffic whatsoever. Now, and as you can imagine, this had to be celebrated. And we had to show the engineers involved a little token of our gratitude. And this is why I took the t-shirt on stage. Because they got the t-shirt. And you might see it run around here as well, because we have Mohamed. He's sitting there and he's wearing it, so yeah, you might see it around as well. So, anyway, a few weeks after the migration, I was in this interview. And the guy asked me if I was ever afraid of something that would go wrong and cause a massive outage. And for some reason, this question got stuck in my head, so I really wanted to add it to my presentation. And I still support the answer I gave back then. So, like with every project, things go wrong, right? It's the standard thing. Things go wrong. And this project was no exception to that. We had links with higher losses due to the dirty cables or broken fibers. We had cables missing, hardware missing that quickly needed to be ordered. And well, this is my tire. There was a flat tire involved at one point during the preparations, luckily. Now, well, because we did pretty extensive preparations, it took us really months to prepare this project, just to make sure nothing would go wrong. And well, it paid off because all of these little things were already caught in time before we even started with the migrations. What did I want to say? I'm lost a bit. Sorry for that. So yeah, oh yeah, the answer to the question. Yeah. So the answer to my question, to that question, is simply no. I was not afraid that anything would go wrong or cause a massive outage, because knowing our engineers and knowing the preparations they did, they would have been on top of that immediately, or they already solved it before it even happened. So that's the answer. Now, of course, moving the core itself is a big part of this project, but it wasn't the only part. It was definitely the part with the biggest potential for impact for the customer traffic and the member connections, but it wasn't the only part. Located in the same space as the core routers is also some of the servers and the systems we use, like storage and those kind of things, and they had to be moved as well. Now, because the core move itself took so much effort already, we decided to postpone this a bit to later in the year, to give everybody some time to breathe again and a well-deserved break. But by the end of the year, all of it was moved as well, and we could consider this project as finalized. And it isn't until you empty out a cage that you see how much stuff goes into one of these cages. And I have to say, this is only part of it, because there was a lot more, but we didn't take all the pictures, and they wouldn't have fitted on the screen anyway. Next on the list, another project. A project that we need to go back in time a bit, about 3 years, at MoraP 2019. I presented about the project that on 29th of April that year, we finalized a project called SuperSite, where we combined 2 locations into a single location, being NICF and Interaction AMS9. And the reason for this is that the distance between those sites, or actually the lack of distance between those sites, and the increased density from the SLXs we installed just before, it would save us, we decided it would save us a lot of power, effort, and money to combine them as if they were one single site. And if you think about it, this marriage has worked pretty well over the last 3 years. It saved us about 4 weeks of work with multiple people, with a big team of people, to implement these 2 switches. And because we didn't implement the switches, the investment cost went down as well. On top of that, these switches use a lot of power. And since they weren't there, they didn't use a lot of power. So the power savings went down, making our operations a lot greener, which you heard yesterday as well, something we care about a lot. But like always, all good things must come to an end. So, so over the last couple of years, we've seen an increased growth of ports being connected at this location, or at both of the locations. And to cope with all these traffic, we also need to implement more backbones. Now, and at this moment, we're slowly starting to see that, or we're starting to see that slowly these switches are running out of capacity. And since we would like to keep offering the capacity you need, and also the backbone traffic that needs to go on these switches, we decided it was time to break up this happy marriage. Now, don't say, ah. Sorry. Since we had this breakup in mind already when we designed this setup, we knew it would happen at one point in time. We actually designed it in a way that would make our lives a lot easier now that we came to that point. The space for those switches is still reserved, it's still there, so we can easily mount them. The cabling has been done in a way that it's really easy to connect those 2 switches again, and it will make it look like any other site. Now, at this moment, we're still in the preparation stages, or investigating. We're investigating what exactly needs to happen. But the chances are good that after the summer holidays, we will start with this breakup. Next on my list. Okay, and this is the one where I stumble with my words during my preparation, so I'm going to try it right. It is the subject about the new vendor for a main switching platform. Look, it worked. So I think this is a subject many of you have been waiting for, or at least I expect it. But I have to disappoint you, because I'm not going to talk about the who or the why or whatever. It's not part of my thing. Instead, we have Stavros and Yevgeny from Juniper later on after the technical track talking about more of those kind of things. And I will just take you a little bit through the migration side of things. Now, you know already that we went for Juniper, as already mentioned, and the first order has been done, and the deliveries are expected in the next couple of months, September or October. So we also started to arrange the training for the people to work with these new switches, and soon we will also start with the updates for the automated provisioning tools we have in place to also be able to work with these switches instead of just the extremes. Now, on top of that, we'll soon start with the preparations for the first migrations. And then it's time to start, basically. Now, The plan for now is to migrate first all the older MLX E switches from Extreme, because they are end of service or end of life. So those we want to target first. And then at the same time, we wanted to start with a smaller location with a bit fewer connections, something like AMS8, Digital Realty AMS18 or Equinix AM6. But at the same time, we see an increased growth as well at Equinix AM5. And we have already 2 stop sets there, or 2 switch sets there, so 4 switches in total. Well, they're nearing again the end of the capacity. It's not near yet. We can still live a little bit longer with them, but yeah, we're seeing the increased growth. Now, and since we are also seeing there, by the way, some more issues arriving, so I think they're just in need of an early retirement. And since there are 4 switches there, it again will save us a lot of power if we can migrate those 4 switches back to 2 of the newer ones. In short, we're not sure yet where to start. As we come closer to the delivery date, we'll make our final decisions, because then we have more accurate details on it. But what we did agree on already is that we are going to try to migrate. Yeah, there it is. We're going to try to migrate 1 location every quarter. Now, with 16 locations plus 2 core locations, it's 4.5 years for this project. Well, that was actually it, all I wanted to say. So yeah, so now we might speed things up a little bit depending on delivery and the ease of migrations, like we did with the DCI project, which we did in about half the time. But for now, this is the plan. Yeah, and as soon as we come closer, I will spam you again through the earlier mentioned channels. Now, then the bonus subject, this is not my subject. I got it from one of my coworkers. It's about our homegrown photonics. Now, we were supposed to present it to you last year, but with the sickness of Max, we couldn't. So then we promised to tape or make a video out of it and share it with you. With everything going on, that kind of fell through the cracks, so my apologies for that. And since Max couldn't be here today again, and I'm starting to see a bit of a pattern, but yeah, I decided, or we decided, well, they decided, that I will be the lucky one to present it to you. So I'll do my best. And I'll take you a bit on the journey that we had so far with this system. I'm going to skip a couple of slides because of time limitation. And there we go, yeah. So as you know, we've been using these things called photonic cross connects, or PXE, from the firm called Glimmerglass. A few years ago, we received word that Glimmerglass was out of business, and therefore we couldn't receive any new systems anymore. So this meant that we needed to search for a new replacement, and I can tell you now that there's not many out there. And the ones that are there simply don't fit our needs. They're either far too expensive, and I mean far too expensive, or they cannot switch the ports within a reasonable amount of time, or an acceptable amount of time. So we needed to search further to find something that would fit our needs. But at the same time, a little bit actually before we got the announcement, one of our coworkers, Maxime Cherevko, he started on a little side project of his own, creating his own photonic cross connect. And it started out with a simple version. It doesn't want to go, there it is. Started out with a simple version. An actual patch panel with a couple of ports connected through optical relays and being operated by a Raspberry Pi, like you can see. And even though it was very simple, it actually worked. It switched extremely fast. It was extremely cheap. And, well, it did basically what we needed it to do. But because it was a test, it kind of looked hideous. And on top of that, the software was not ready yet, definitely not production ready yet. And we also didn't really think the security part through at that moment. But it worked, so we decided to take it a step further and find a company that could help us prototype this into a bigger version. And the company we work with, they came up with this model. It's a 2U version with 192 ports, which is smaller than the Glimmerglass with more ports. And it was modular, so this was the first benefit already. And in theory, it did all the work it needed to do, except for a minor mistake where the power supplies would dip every now and then, causing failure in the switching times. On top of that, the company we worked with could do the prototype, but not the full development, including the certifications that are needed to be able to house these things in data centers and you name it. So we went to search further, and I forgot the name of the company that we're now using, Teraflex, I believe? Teratel. We went further, we got a couple of offers, and eventually we chose to work with Teratel, and the company, or the designs they came up with are these. So they came with 2 models. A 1U model, which is perfect for smaller sites with less connections, which can handle 4 modules with 192 ports. And they had a 2U module, which can handle 480 ports, which is a lot more than the 192 I mentioned earlier in 2U. And they are 10 modules now. On top of this, the management module and the power supply are both redundant and hot swappable. And we already measured the power, and it's so low that you actually cannot measure it, or at least you won't notice that it's there. The modules for the ports, they are for both systems the same, so we don't need to keep multiple versions on stock, which helps a lot. Like I said, it's not my story. Yeah, and the software that is being written to control the whole system is actually being written in a way that it can work with the automation tools we already have in place. Now, there are a couple of differences, so we do need to change a few things there, but there are a couple of differences between the two systems. The Glimmerglass uses this technology called 3D MEMS. And basically what it means is that you can configure it in an any-to-any configuration. So any port on the system can connect to any other port on the same system. The homegrown system uses optical relays, which basically means that it only has a single incoming port and it can switch between 2 outgoing ports, which is what we need. So this is, of course, something that takes away a bit of flexibility that we do have currently, but it also adds a lot of benefits. So in case of a power outage, the 3D MEMS will drop all its connections, basically causing an outage for everything that's connected to the system. The optical relay, on the other hand, it's a latching system. And it means that if a power outage occurs, the connection will stay where it was. Now, and this means that basically, once the connection has been set, we can take the module out, just put it on top or somewhere else. As long as we keep the connections connected, it should just work fine. Not something we'll do with your connection, but it's definitely something I want to just try for the fun of it in our lab, just to test the theory. Now, on top of that, the 3D MEMS require this space called dry air, which is quite a big box, actually, where the lights get shot from one mirror to the next one. The optical relays don't need this space, and therefore you can make them way more compact and increase the density of the system. And logically, the financial part of things, the 3D MEMS is just far more expensive. Now, and as you know, we always like to name things, right? We always like to make nice little logos like we did for the Diet Core and for the SuperSite and maybe a potential future project called Core Zero. And since this project is to replace the Glimmerglass, and it being created by our very own Max, we decided to call it the Glimmer Max. Now, this is a name only used internally, so it's just to identify the project when we're talking about it. And in the end, the system will probably get a new name. And if you have any thoughts, please shoot them, because we really would like to hear your opinion on this as well. Anyway, yeah, so that's that. So the company we work with, Teratel, they're located in Ukraine, so everything going on there, we already had some delays. I have to say, not that many yet, so respect for that. But we had some delays, and we're expecting a bit more. But I'm really hoping that before the end of the year we can have a first prototype in our hands and start playing around with it. But yeah, let's just say that next year I hope to have Max here on stage and present you the update. And otherwise I'll do it again. Yeah, so this is all I can give you for now. Yeah, we'll update again once there is something to update. That was it for my presentation. No, I have time. Well, I don't, but I'm going to take time. Any questions? And I prefer not because, well, they're always scary, but I see. Yes? Erik. It's funny, the first rows I can see perfectly fine, but in the back, I see.
Thanks for the presentation, especially like the one about the new optical relay. As far as I believe, the Glimmerglasses also had the option to mirror traffic in certain configuration ports. Is that also going to be an option in the new version?
No, definitely not. Actually, the traffic mirroring is not enabled on the systems we use from Glimmerglass. I actually expected this question, so I checked it out. But no, so the mirroring option we don't use, or we cannot even use it because it's disabled, and the new systems won't even have the ability to do so. So because it's really just 2 ports and that's it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? No, Joris, you're not allowed. So I'm not stepping off stage yet, even though our CTO nicely stood up. And the reason for that is that I have one more little thing to do. I have a little quiz. And I didn't prepare this, by the way. It was sort of a last spur-in-the-moment thing. So, yeah, I have a little quiz. I prepared a couple of questions for you, and there's something you can win. And, well, you saw it already. And it's this very nice, unique T-shirt. It's triple XL. It has been washed. I think it needs some ironing. But yeah, you can be the proud owner of it. There's only 12 made, and 11 of those are in the hands of the engineers that actually were involved in the implementation. But how's this going to work? And this is the part that I really didn't prepare. Well, I prepared the slides, but not the talk. So how's it going to work? I prepared a couple of multiple choice questions. Now, and if you want to play, you simply stand up. And we'll go over those questions. Oh, by the way, this is what you can win. Not Mohammed. So yeah, I prepared a couple of questions, multiple choice, and how it's going to work is simply you stand up. And this I took some inspiration from previous presenters on MoreIP from last year, or a lot of years ago already. Once you stand up, and you get 3 options. If you choose option number 1, you put 1 hand in the air. If you choose option number 2, 2 hands in the air. And for option 3, you put both hands on your head. Simple, right? Well, at least I think it is. In my practice round, it was. If you want to play, please, this is the moment to stand up. And remember, there's a really cool, unique T-shirt, right? Oh, wait. Before I forget. Is my microphone? Yeah. So before I forget. I see a couple of AMP6 people standing up. I'm sorry. There's one rule, well, there's 2, you're not allowed to cheat, but there's another rule, you're not allowed to be AMP6 employee. I actually want to say now also not ex-employee, because Joris is here. And, So let's start off with a simple warm-up question. Would you like to win this awesome and unique T-shirt? If the answer is no, please put 1 hand up. If the answer is B, maybe 2 hands. And if the answer is yes, and of course it's yes, then put 2 hands. So, anybody with the answers A or B, of course, go sit down. Or this round, you're still allowed to cheat. Right? You're allowed to keep standing. Because the answer was, of course, yes, you won it. Who doesn't? Well, actually, I see still a couple of people sitting. Yeah. Okay, question number 2. How many POP locations are connected to the core routers in Amsterdam? Is it A, 14, B, 16, or C, 18? Wow, you're answering a lot faster than I thought. It's actually B, 16. So only a few people had it wrong. It's, yeah, good. You have been paying attention. Okay, next question. How many 100 gig links were moved during the core move? Was it 198? Was it 19.8? Or was it 38? I'm waiting for one person still. Well, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. It was 119.8. We moved 19.8 terabit, which is 198 links. And I see somebody cheating because you had 2 hands up. I said before, the first lines I see, it's the back that I have troubles with. So question number 4. Which 2 data centers combined are what we call the supersite? Is it A, all the data centers on the Science Park, B, Interaction Science Park and Interaction AMS 5, or is it C, NICF and Interaction Science Park? Well, I think everybody has it right. It was C. Damn, there's too many people standing still. I don't have that many questions. How long do we expect the migration to the new storage vendor to take? Is it A, 3.5, 4 years, or 4.5 for C? It is 4.5 years. And I see actually people with 1 or 2 hands up. So use those hands to sit down. Cool. Question number 6. What internal name do we use to identify the project to replace the Photonic Cross Connect? A, GlimmerMax, B, GlimmerGlass, or C, MaxiGlass? It is, of course, answer A, GlimmerMax. Yeah, I know. But nice to know on this one is MaxiGlass was actually one of the names we also identified as an option, but it just never got stuck in our head, so GlimmerMax it became. Now, one final last easy question, and I hope really everybody has this one right. Which of the following locations is not connected to the M6? Greenhouse, Charlie's Chocolate Factory, or Smart DC. And of course, it's Charlie Chocolate Factory. But can you imagine if they would be a sponsor of MoreIP, what would be in the goodie bags? Well, Willy Wonka would really sponsor us there. So we're going to make it a bit harder because I still see way too many faces before we can go to the last bonus question. So how much customer capacity is currently connected to the AM6 in the Netherlands? Good to add. Is it 45.6 terabit? Is it 48.8 terabit? Or is it 52.0 terabit? Everybody with one hand up or two hands up? Wave and sit. Because it was C. 45 is what was last year, 52 is this year, and the 48 one is just the average between the two. Next one, question 9, and we're going quite faster than expected. So, how many ports are there on a single module of the homegrown PXE? A, 48, B, 192, or C, 480? Jean de Wiet? It is A, 48. So 4 people left. 5? 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, sorry. 5 people left. So the next question, I'm going to ask for a number. The answer is not there, good. It's only here. So the next question, I'm going to ask for a number, and whoever comes closest wins the t-shirt. But since there are still 5 people, I don't want to invite you all on the stage. It's a bit too many, so let's first start with filtering you out. The question. Oh yeah, I did this, so I didn't skip too quickly. What is the total length of all the optical fibers combined in the Amsterdam network from the moment it comes from the meet me room into our cage, all the way up to the core routers? So the total length of all the fiber optical cable combined in the AM6 network. And duplex fiber counts as single, right? We're not going to differentiate there. AM6 Netherlands. So let's filter out first. If you think it's less than 500 kilometers, raise one hand. If you think it's more than 500 kilometers, please raise 2 hands. Hans, you can sit down. It's more than 500. Oh, I wanted to click, I shouldn't. So we go for the next question. 4 to go. Do you think it's more than 1,000 or less than 1,000? A for less than 1,000, and 2 hands up for more than 1,000 kilometers. Are you ready? Because we have a winner. It is just below 1,000 kilometers, 909.2 kilometers of traffic. Joris! It's funny that how the only ex-employee here that I know of at least, and he wins the awesome t-shirt. Hey, we have a picture moment. Cheers! Yeah. I do expect you to wear it now, right? So, and this was it for my presentation. So if there are any more questions, just quickly, you know, otherwise come and find me. I'll be running around all day.
One thing I wanted to ask, as a result of you mentioning the outline of the project of migrating our stuff, yesterday there was a question in the GM. What are we going to do with all the switching stuff?
You want me to answer? Or you?
Yeah, I want you to answer.
Yeah, so one of the questions we got yesterday in the audience was actually from Erik, was about Keep Ukraine Connected, the initiative that's being done where switches and network equipment is being donated to this instance. How do you call that? This instance? No, well, to keep Ukraine connected. Now, we already gave some switches that we had left, and with this project of migrating the switches, we will get a lot of old equipment back, like the MLXs, and we'll definitely look into what we can spare again to donate to this Keep Ukraine initiative.
Exactly, it would be a good cause. Thank you, Tim, for this presentation and the quiz, obviously.